Hey guys, Ron here, and today I'm trying to start a new series on this channel, so help me out by spreading the word. I'm gonna be type swapping Pokemon and then drawing my new creations, but doing it in a way that makes way more sense than the average type swaps you've seen on the interwebs. Instead of swapping Pokemon into random types that obliterate the entire design of a Pokemon, I'm gonna design these type swapped Pokemon as if they were also regional variants. I'm gonna give them backstories and make them actually work in the Pokemon world. Just like Alolan or Galarian Forms, these Pokemon are gonna be given a completely new type, but since this is a type swap, I will take out their original typing. So instead of being like Galarian Weezing, who is still poison but gets a fairy type added to it, we're gonna make Pokemon along the lines of Alolan Marowak, who is a fire and ghost type, completely different from its original ground type, but is still clearly a Marowak. I wanted the first design to be a water Magmar, definitely the most different of the group that I've collected for this video. It's not too far off of an idea though. Here's why. Magmar gets its Japanese name and various design traits from blue-footed boobies, so changing the entire color scheme to blue will make a whole lot of sense, and in regards to its evolution from fire to water, I suspect that there was a steam Magmar in between these two forms that died off. So we're gonna sketch over the original Magmar because regional forms are usually in the same pose as the original art, unless they're way different in concept. But we're giving Water Magmar a pointy beak, like a booby, that connects to its eyes. Its fire head will become bubbles instead, and the whole aesthetic of the design will become water instead of fire, obviously. But first I want to fill in the parts that aren't gonna change, like the belly, thighs, and various metal collars Magmar seems to have. Bubble designs on its stomach like Azumarill, webbed feet like a booby, and a mermaid-like tail. Instead of those square feathers that Magmar has, I'm gonna give him spiky ones, so they look more like actual feathers, and therefore more like a blue-footed booby. I didn't know if I wanted his hands to be full-on webbed, but ultimately settled for something like the hands of a Golduck. Originally I was gonna give him the large spikes that Fire Magmar has, but webbed. However, it was too much. Just a lot going on. So I settled for a more low-key version that resembles the fins Vaporeon has. Added those sideburn feathers, and there he is, a water-type Magmar from a distant region. Perhaps a group of Magmar slowly learned how to create steam and used it to cook foods that taste better when steamed, I guess. They started to fear water less and less and eventually lived near hot springs instead of volcanoes. Its stats are pretty much the same as normal Magmars, just a bit more special attack than physical attack and less special defense for a bit more speed. It obviously doesn't have Flame Body anymore, instead it has Water Absorb or Damp. It is no longer the Spitfire Pokemon, it is now the Bubble Blast Pokemon. Next is Wailord. It ain't a fish, so this big boy's got lungs. He breathes air, and whales were just mammals that ended up in the ocean, so what if they went back on land? Naturally, they'd die because they wouldn't be able to support their weight. There's a reason the biggest animals on the planet are found in the sea, but if he was longer and slithered around, it could work. That's why I want to make a ground Wailord that is inspired by the sandworms of the science fiction novel Dune, mixed with an narwhal. Let's go! So this thing is a long sandworm Wailord with a horn. It'll be coming out of the ground like a Dugtrio, so no need to make the butt. Gotta give it a horn and a cute little whale eye. And how about some smiling Wailord teeth? Those Wailord flippers are easy design traits that make it obviously a Wailord. Gotta design the ground as if the Wailord is mid-breach. Let's pretend we snapped a picture of this Wailord exactly when it came out of the earth. The sandworm lines are tricky. I wanted them to spiral like a drill because if they were straight, he will look like a worm, and I want him to look like a long Wailord. Now I'm just adding more sand for atmosphere, but I really want to make its mouth somehow look like the mouth of a sandworm. You know, with its multiple lips, but it doesn't look right, especially since I want it to still look friendly. The perspective of the horn was off, and I got rid of the extra lips, so I decided to give it 3 horns instead of 3 lips. That way it looks more alien. And here is my big boy! It's 123 feet long and lives in oceans of sand. It won't live in any old desert, it has to be secluded. Millions of years ago, some Wailords developed horn tusks that they would use to drill. Just like how the real-world Sahara Desert used to be a very tropical, fertile place and was even once a sea before the continents shifted, the habitat of Wailords slowly dried out and they evolved with it, becoming land Wailords that drilled into the sand to find nutrition. They actually tilled the untapped soil and helped bring nutritious earth and even water back up to the surface. They're responsible for the creation of a bunch of oases. Their blue eyes are a little Easter egg for the Dune fans. It has the ability Sand Rush and Sand Veil, and as you can see, its attack stat is better than its special attack stat, and it trades some speed for a bit more defense. It's not filled with air anymore like a water Wailord, It went from being the float whale Pokemon to the sandworm Pokemon. Next, I wanted to try my hand at a type swap that was already established by Game Freak themselves. In Pokemon Sun's Dex entry for Primeape, the Dex says that it has been known to become so angry that it dies as a result. Its face looks peaceful in death, however. So I'm gonna make a ghost Primeape that has died from anger, but is now at peace. I still want it to be super spiky, as if it literally exploded and is now in an eternal state of explosion. In design, at least. I thought I wanted it to look like a comet shooting upwards, but again, this guy isn't in motion anymore, it's just floating around. It also simply looks like a Primeape without limbs, so I try to change that up later. I thought maybe it should have a sweet, happy face, but its eyes look super weird when round, so I had an idea. We keep its eyes angular, but finally give it a smile, as if it still has this cockiness and Primeape personality, but it's a-okay. I gave him a ghostly tail and turned his upper lip furry cause that makes more sense. I also gave him a thumbs up, and even in the final design, I'm not too happy with the thumb cause it straight up looks like a human thumb. The problem is we've never seen Primeape's thumb, and I try to find pictures to no avail. I finally decided to make its ears ghostly as well, and the rest of the time I'm simply trying to redesign its hands and give him some additional accents. In the final design, I remove its ear holes, almost looking like devil horns, and this is it. His stats are basically the same except its attack and special attack are switched. It was finally released of its anger upon death and now goes around trying to coach those who want to be the very best at fighting. It's known for its ability to boost the self-confidence of others. It always believes in those who are willing to put the time and effort to better themselves. It has the ability Vital Spirit, literally, and a new ability called Motivate, which boosts the attack and special attack of its allies. When not in a double battle, it powers up its ghost moves in low HP, like a Ghost Blaze. It even has a new signature move called Rally. In exchange for its HP, it can revive a fainted Pokemon on its team with half of its HP back. It has only 1 PP though. Use it when Primeape has low HP and is about to go down anyways. The next one was the easiest to design, even though it was a complete 180 in terms of its concept. I'm gonna make an electric Slackoth, an energetic and powerful little beast. When I start sketching the design, it's basically the same but with more spiky hair. Its eye rings rise up instead of being circles, and instead of a lax look, it's a bit feisty looking. I wanted it to be smiling as if it's about to compete in a race. Its hair is spiky, as if static is making its hair stand up, and the body is basically modeled after Vigoroth. Again, much more fluffy, and the rest is basically the same as a Slackoth instead of its stomach. We're taking out the belly spot and adding lightning stripes like a Zebstrika, just experimenting with the patterns. Adding some on the hands really ties it all together, especially when fully colored. This is my little rambunctious child. Because of urbanization and deforestation, Slackoths in this region started lounging on power lines instead of trees. They absorbed the energy from them, slowly building up their tolerance to electricity, and eventually becoming so energized that they began to hunt and fight. Their claws are a very efficient way of both grounding them and tasing their foes. This line is actually the reverse of the normal Slackoth line. They use up so much of their electricity that when they evolve, they need to recharge as Vigoroth before evolving into slacking and rampaging again. So in this line, Vigoroth is actually the lazy one, and I'll create him and maybe slacking in an upcoming episode, so make sure to like the video and share if you want more. Its ability is Vital Spirit and Motor Drive. It does drain easily though, so its HP and defense isn't as high as its original form, but its special attack and especially speed is way higher. Now it's time for our final type swap of the day. Rock Metagross. It'll be the very first Metagross in existence. These will be the ones that were roaming the land in ancient times and eventually turned into the modern ones. This one will definitely be the most complicated since it's comprised of just a bunch of rocks instead of metal parts. I'm just gonna draw different rocks in place of Metagross's body parts. Its big cross is some rock that was filed down to the vague shape of a cross. I have to make sure it doesn't look like machinery touched it. It has to be a rock that can be formed and shaped in the wild. You see, its ball and socket have to look like separate rocks that are attached via supernatural powers. This is a bunch of rocks possessed by a super smart ghost. So if the ghost leaves these rocks, they would detach and become just a pile of rocks. That's why when I was designing the other front leg, I made sure that it wasn't just one big rock, but a bunch of different smaller rocks coming together to look like a leg. I went back to the other leg and separated it into multiple rocks. I did the back legs and then added some dirt to the bottom of the legs because this thing is roaming around the wild. The legs get dirty and the rocks slowly weather and chip away. It's not steel, bruh. I added more cracks and pebbles, varied some of the colors, and decided that the ghostly spirit will manifest itself as fire, kinda like Golurk in Detective Pikachu, and it will be steaming out of its eyes and the crack in the back of its skull stone. And wow, look at this creature. So a long time ago, a ghost possessed a hollow rock. That's the rock that makes its head. It collected a bunch of other rocks and bound them together with its supernatural powers to make an entire body so it could move and attack, kinda like a stone talus from Zelda. Over time, it learned how to hunt, use tools, and even float. It learned how to file its rocks into sharper ones and even replaced its rocks with stronger ones that it found. It eventually found iron ore and then learned how to purify metals. The smarter it became, the more conscious it became. Eventually, it was able to replicate itself and therefore reproduce, and then its children combined with each other to give their evolution 4 different souls. After thousands of years, it has evolved a body of steel and became a psychic type, synthesizing biological, tangible brains. That is the Metagross line that we all know and love. Rock Ghost Metagross doesn't really exist anymore, so you can't really use one, and you wouldn't really want to since its stats have the exact same distribution, but are weaker. Cause I mean, that's the point, it just became stronger over time. Steel is better than a bunch of rocks. It became tougher, stronger, and faster. Its ability was Clear Body too, with the added ability Sturdy. I hope you enjoyed these creations enough to leave a like and subscribe for more videos like these. Make sure to follow me on Twitter and Instagram, where I will post final full artwork of these from time to time, and check the description for the music I used, the t-shirts I made for you guys, and my Patreon, where you can get cool rewards like seeing my videos days early, or click the join button for the same rewards. Bye!